تعجيل فرج المولى صاحب العصر والزمان والحفظ وجوده الشريف أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك المعصومين المظلومين. لعن الله الظالمين لكم سادتي من الأولين والآخرين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء. سيدي ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا فيا ليتنا كنا معكم فنفوز فوزا عظيما. We offer our condolences on this night for the Imam of our time, صاحب العصر والزمان, عجل الله تعالى فرجه, for the martyrdom of the beloved daughter of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, Rouqaya. Rouqaya in this poem speaks to her auntie Zainab. يا عمتاه إلى الغريب خذيني فعساه يرحم دمعتي وأنيني. فأنا المدللة الصغيرة عنده وإذا شكوت له الأسى يرضيني. Auntie Zainab, take me to my father Hussein. I am the one that he loved me so much, and whenever I used to complain about anything that is making me upset, he used to wipe my head, swipe on my head. قدمت إليه وكلمته وصوتها ما بين صوت واله وحزين. أبتاه إن ترحل ويصرعك الردى فمن الأعادي من عساه يقيني. Oh Father, if you get killed or if you leave me, who will protect me from the enemies? وإذا طلبت الماء والعباس قد قطعت يداه فمن ترى يسقيني. أبتاه انحرق الأعادي دارنا. يا فمن الذي في داره يؤويني. Oh Father, who will get me water? And my uncle Abbas was killed and his hands were severed. Oh Father, when they come and they burn our tent, who will give us refuge? وإذا اللئام أتت لنهب سلاسلي وأساوري، فمن الذي يحميني؟ هالنوح يا زغرة على منو تنوحين؟ نوحك على المسموم لو نوحك على حسين. حنت ونادت والدمع عالخد بادي، ان تسألوني يا خلق كلهم اولادي، لكن مصاب حسين ظل ماضي بفادي. كل العزا والنوح والحسرة على حسين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون، والعاقبة للمتقين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. In the narration by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, when he speaks to Abu Harun al-Makfuf, he says to him, Ya Aba Harun, إنا نأمر صبياننا بتسبيح فاطمة عليها السلام كما نأمرهم بالصلاة فالزمه فإنه لم يلزمه عبد فشقي. Imam Sadiq speaks to one of his companions, Abu Harun al-Makfuf, which one of the great companions who was blind, and he was one of the closest companions of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, one of the people who had a great ma'rifah in the Imam. So it is obvious when the Imam gives the secrets of the ibadah, he gives it to the closest of the companions. He says to him, Ya Aba Harun, we command and we order our children to do tasbih al-Zahra the same way we order them and we command them of performing the prayers. Because this tasbih, whoever sticks to it and he does it all the time, he won't see hardships in his dunya. In the sense that the hardships won't affect him as much. This narration is always mentioned when we are trying to speak about the virtues of Tasbih al-Zahra salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha. But tonight I will speak about 3 points that this narration speaks about. Inshallah we will link it to the Sayyeda, our lady Rouqaya salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, the girl and the daughter of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein that we are commemorating her martyrdom on this night. We mentioned these 3 points after Salat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. The first note that we take from this narration, the Imam says that we order and command our children with something that is recommended, something that is not a must. The first note is that we know that the age of taklif, when the person is supposed to perform prayers, it becomes a must upon him. And if he misses a prayer, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold him accountable for it. It's, for example, at the age of 14 or 13 years and 8 months for the boys, and 8 years and 8 months for the girls. This is usually the age that when I reach this age, I am responsible for the ibadah. I am responsible what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a must upon me. While the Imam here, he says we order our children who are under this age. We order them the same way we order them to pray, to perform the salat on time, to fulfill their duty towards Allah. The same way we order them how to pray, we order them to perform tasbih al-Zahra, which is something that is recommended. So here the Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim, they command their children to do something that is recommended, the same way they command them of doing something that is a must, like the salat. The second thing that we derive from this narration, that Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim, made what is mustahab, what is recommended, as if it's something that is a must. And what is the importance of this? When I raise my child, they give us here in this narration a way to raise your children in order to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly, in order not to feel tired when it comes to the prayer times. So the Imam is telling us that the way we raise our children, the way we tell our children to raise themselves, is to treat what is recommended and give it importance to a point as if it's something that is a must. So when I teach my child, or I teach myself to pray the recommended prayers, the nawafil, each prayer, each daily prayer has nawafil, has recommended rak'at that we can pray. Like there is 8 rak'at for Salat al-Dhuhr that we pray before Dhuhr, 8 rak'at before Salat al-Asr. I don't want to explain the whole thing, but these recommended prayers, they perfect the Salat. If I'm not concentrating in my prayer, these prayers, they will complete my Salat. And you can do them when you are driving your car, you can do them while you're walking, while you're running. Whatever you are doing, you can pray these nawafil. If I deal with these nawafil as if they are a must, then when it comes to the what's wajib, what's must, it becomes something normal. They teach their children to pray Salat al-Layl as if it's a must. Then when they are raised upon this, then when it comes to the Salat, it's nothing for them. And nowadays we're still asking, what can I do in order to be able to pray Salat al-Fajr, to wake up for Salat al-Fajr? What am I going to do if I'm at work and I have a lot of Christians around me and people from different cultures? They might look differently upon me. What am I going to do? And I have to work. Can I pray? How do I pray at school? We still ask these questions as if the praise is a burden. So the second thing that we learn from this narration, that Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim, they gave the status of, for the recommended prayers and recommended dates, they give them the status of what's must. So what's must becomes something that is greater than being just a must. The third note that we take from Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The Imam is telling us that our children, even if they are at the age of 3 or 4 or 5, under the age of taklif, they can be a role model for the scholars of our followers. Because he was telling who? He was telling his companion Abu Harun al-Makfuf about how they raise their children. It means this child at this age who prays, who does tasbih al-Zahra, which is something that is recommended, something that we usually take lightly. He's telling us that this child who's not an imam, we're not speaking about Imam al-Jawad who became an imam at the age of 9. We're not speaking about imams. Imams are infallible since before they were even born. Since there were lights surrounding the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were infallible. But we're speaking about the normal children. Taken like Al-Qasim salawatullahi wa salam at the age of 13 in Karbala. He wasn't an imam, but yet he ignored the 30,000 army around him. You know, like how the armies were groups. He left all these groups that were surrounding him and he headed towards the group which was with Umar ibn Sa'd alayhi la'inullah. Because that man who disrespected Al-Imam al-Hussein. Do you want someone who, Al-Qasim was 13. Do you want someone who was younger than Al-Qasim? His younger brother. Because raising children is not only upon knowledge, upon ibadah, even upon courage, upon standing up for the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone who's younger than Al-Qasim, his younger brother, Abdullah. Usually when a person pulls up a knife against me, I move away. Abdullah ibn al-Hasan, because he was defending the Imam of his time, defending the religion. The man came to strike Al-Imam al-Hussein with his sword. He put his hand in the face of the sword until it was severed and it was still hanging onto the skin. And he was so young. So these children are a role model for us. This is how Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim raised their children. And one of the examples is Sayyeda Rouqaya salawatullahi wa salamu alayha لذكرها صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. It is important to read about these individuals, even if they are young. You know, some people, they say that Sayyida Rouqaya salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, she was crying for her father just because she was too young and she loves her father and she misses her father, and then she died upon his head. That was not the case. Sayyida Rouqaya, the way Al-Imam Al-Hussein raised her, she used to put the prayer mat for him every night and wait next to the prayer mat before the prayer times. Why? She knows the value of the salat. She waits for her father to come and pray so she can look upon his face, and then she listens to his supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a person who knows what the ibadah means, what the salat means. Not only that her father is the one who brought her to this dunya and the one who used to hug her and kiss her on in every day. No. It was, Rouqaya had knowledge, had ma'rifah. So when we speak about Sayyida Rouqaya, it's important to learn from her. It's not only a random kid, a child that is acting out of her instincts as a child. No, she was greater than that. In order to understand the status of this lady, we look upon her life. We mentioned earlier that this girl at this young age, she used to know the value of the prayers to a point that she used to wait for her father and put the prayer mat for him before the prayer times and sit next to him and watch him praying. The special relationship between her and her father speaks about her status, because her father is an imam, muftarad al-ta'a. It's a must upon us to obey this imam. This young girl, she had a special relationship with her father. And when we want to know the status of a girl, of the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, we usually compare them to Fatima al-Zahra salawatullahi wa salam alayhi. And this is what we always do when we speak about Fatima al-Ma'suma, the sister of Imam al-Kadhim. We compare her with Fatima al-Zahra. When we speak about Zainab alayhi salam, we compare her with Fatima al-Zahra. Even the mu'mineen of our women and our daughters, when they want to know their status and their closeness to Allah, they compare themselves to Fatima al-Zahra. They want to see the value and the status of their hijab. How good is my hijab? They look at Fatima al-Zahra salawatullahi wa salam alayhi. They don't take this, for example, famous girl on TikTok or on social media as a role model. No, they take someone who's great, someone to look up to, someone who doesn't push me into committing sins and wasting my time. Same thing for us, because Fatima al-Zahra is not only a role model for women, even for men. With her morals, with the way she deals with her children, with the way she deals with her neighbors, that she used to do dua for her neighbors before doing it for herself. So we look and we compare Sayyida Rouqaya to Fatima al-Zahra, because Fatima al-Zahra is the greatest of the women of this world and all of the worlds, the dunya and the hereafter, before and after. The narration says that كَمُلَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ كَثِيرٌ. A lot of men reached perfection, but only 4 reached perfection of women. 4 of women. Who are they? Maryam ibnatu Imran, the mother of Jesus alayhi salam. And then Asya bint Muzahim, the wife of Fir'aun. And Khadija bint Khuwaylid, the wife of Rasulullah, the mother of Fatima al-Zahra. Wa Fatima bint Muhammad. Three points that are common between Sayyida Rouqaya salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha and Fatima al-Zahra. The first one is the special relationship between the father and the daughter. Fatima al-Zahra, they called her Ummu Abiha, the mother of her father. Rouqaya alayha salam, she was so attached to her father, not only in the state of being alive, even after his death, to a point that she couldn't bear to stay alive. She followed him. When we see, when the convoy left Karbala and the spear that had the head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein would go down in the ground until the middle of it. Why? And the face of Imam Hussein was pointing to a place. The army, they tried to take it off, they couldn't. They asked Imam Zayn al-Abidin, what's happening? He said, look where the face of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is facing and follow that direction. Maybe one of the daughters of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein fell. Rouqaya fell down and she fell asleep from how tired she was. They found her when they returned. To that point, she was attached to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salam. The second thing, not being able to stay away from her father. The same way Fatima al-Zahra, after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi at the age of 18, she asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten her death. Rouqaya alayhi salam, she asked for her father to come and they sent her the head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and she died upon his head. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The third common thing is Fatima al-Zahra died young at the age of 18 and Rouqaya alayhi salam died young at the age of 3 or 4 years old. What did the religion benefit from this individual? A child that is 3 years old, you know. We always ask, why are we commemorating right now to commemorate the martyrdom of a young girl? What did she give me? As a mu'min, as a follower of Rasulullah, what did I benefit? What did my religion benefit? Two main things that I will mention. That the religion benefited from this girl, from the daughter of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, and she was 3 or 4 years old. The first thing, being able to recognize the haqq from the batil. What's right from what's evil, from what's wrong. The history turned. The same way now we are still commemorating as well the martyrdom of Imam al-Hassan. And people at the time, they doubted Imam al-Hassan. They accused him of being a kafir wal-iyadhu billah, just because he chose to do a peace treaty with Muawiyah. Even his companions, they said to him, oh, the one who humiliated the mu'mineen. Ya mudhill al-mu'mineen. They doubted his imam. Al-Imam al-Hussein, after Karbala, and nowadays we still have people who say that Al-Imam al-Hussein, it is true that he is the grandson of Rasulullah. And Rasulullah said about him and about Al-Imam al-Hassan, they are imaman, qama or qa'ada, whether they choose to go to the battle or they choose to stay sitting down. Even if it's like that. But he went against the Khalifa of his time. He was the one who caused the corruption. And he was the one that was mistaken. And that's what Banu Umayyah started to teach the people. That Imam Hussein was wrong. He went against the Khalifa of his time. And then we look. Who of the people that his child was slaughtered between his hands, you know who's right and who's wrong. Whose daughters and children were trampled by the hooves of the horses on the land of Karbala, you will know who's right or wrong. And who's wrong. Who we see the daughter of who that was crying to see her father. And Yazid alayhi la'inullah, he didn't have enough from killing the men and the children in Karbala. He still wanted to break their heart and kill them by sending the head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein to Sayyeda Rouqaya at the age of 4 to break her heart, to kill her. And then you know who's right and who's wrong. When Abu Abdullah al-Hussein had 70 people and the enemy had 30,000 people and they still chose to kill them and slaughter them on the land of Karbala. Even if Imam al-Hussein offered them to go back to where he was, they just refused. Then you will know that when the strong, he doesn't care how he shows his strength, no matter how weak and right his opponent is, then you will know who's right and who's wrong. So the tragedy of Sayyida Rouqaya salawatullahi wa salamu alayha, she showed the world that Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is the haqq, is the right, even that the other group claims to be Muslims. We still have people nowadays in our world that they praise Yazid ibn Muawiyah la'natullah alayh. And they even praise his father alayhi la'inullah. The second thing that we benefited from Sayyida Rouqaya is that she showed us the example of the Sha'air al-Husayniyah, the rituals that are related to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. How intense should our grief be about Abu Abdullah? Imam al-Baqir, he says, every intense grief is forbidden except upon Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. It's permissible. So she showed us that jaza and grief has no limits when it comes to Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. And it's one of the greatest rituals. Why is that? Why is she trying to show us this great lesson? Even though Rouqaya, she saw everything in Karbala. Why didn't she die on the 10th day of Muharram? Except she died on the 5th of Safar. 25 days, the head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein is on the top of the spear and they're walking. Why didn't she die then? Why did she die later? She had ma'rifah in the Ma'soom. She wanted to teach us a lesson. The narrations indicate that. Rouqaya alayhi salam, from how, when she saw Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, she saw him in a very bad state in her dream. He was not happy. He was depressed, according to the narration that is mentioned. This is in a Sunni book as well, by a Sunni narrator and in our narrations. She saw him, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein used to come to her every day in her dreams. She used to see him every day. But she died way after. She's teaching us a lesson about taking care of these rituals and sha'air and intense grief of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein salawatullahi wa salam. Why? The role of the sha'air is known. We have two main roles. Because these rituals is what protects our religion. Where do we take our religion from? From the media? The media that lies all the time? The media that covers and hides the Ziyaratul Arba'een just to hide the virtue of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein? No, we take our knowledge from this member, from this Husayniyah. This is where we get our religion. This is where your fathers and your mothers and my father and my mother and my grandparents and my ancestors, they all got their religion from, and they passed it to me through these rituals. So the first role is to protect my religion, because when I come here, it's a reminder. It reminds me of the message of Rasulullah. And the second role is to guide. If the people wants to know about Al-Imam al-Hussein, where do they come to? To the Husayniyah, where the Shia are crying. And then she teaches us through dying over the head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, is that this grief is the way that you can measure your ma'rifah, your knowledge in the Imam. How much you know the Imam. What the Imam means to you. How much does the Imam mean to you as a Shi'i, as a Muwali? The greater his status in your heart, the more sad you become. Some people, they grieve over money. If they lose in their business, if they're not getting a job, they grieve. Some people, they grieve over not getting V-Bucks for PlayStation, correct? And they cry. Or we have some people, they grieve over who? Over the Imam, that we are created in order to get to know him. Because knowing him is our way to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we see that they brought a woman to wash the body of Sayyeda Rouqaya, they bring her to the mortuary. And this lady, she flees. And she refuses to wash her body. Why? Because she thinks that this girl has some sort of a disease. Because she saw marks on her body. We got to know how great this crime was against the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. So we know who's the zalim, who's the tyrant. And then we get to know the importance of the grief and the sha'air. As I mentioned, that this grief is the way we measure our ma'rif and the ma'soom. One of the narration, Imam Sadiq says to his companion Musma', he says to him, you are of the people of Iraq. Do you visit Al-Imam al-Hussein? He says, yes, ya ibn Rasulillah. He says, do you mention his musibah, his tragedy? He says, yes, and I cry even when I am eating with my family, to a point that they will notice this. They will notice my tears falling onto my cheeks. And then he said to him, رحم الله دمعتك يا مسمع. May Allah have mercy upon your tear, O Muslim. Because this tear, we get to know, and the people get to know that you are أما إنك من الذين يفرحون لفرحنا, of those who will be happy whenever we are happy. ويحزنون لحزننا, and they grieve whenever we grieve. ويأمنون إذا أمنا, whenever we feel safe, this is the safety for them. ويأمنون إذا أمنا. What happens if you reach that kind of ma'rifah, knowing the Ma'soom? He says, because of that, you will definitely see my forefathers attending your deathbed. Isn't this what we are scared of the most? Death, losing all the beauty of this dunya. We don't know what is our status in the hereafter. This is the most scary point to us, because we don't know what's going to happen next. Everything, al-insan adu ma yajhal. The greatest enemy of the human being is what is unknown for him, what he's ignorant of. If someone tells you, or you see a dark room, pitch black, you won't enter until you turn on the light, especially if you have doubts that you don't know what's inside this room. Some people tell you that there is a lion in this room, even if you are living in a country that doesn't have lions. Even if you know that this place doesn't have these kind of wild animals, you will still avoid this room, because it's something that is unknown what is inside. Al-insan aduwwu ma yajhal. So the most scary point for us is when we reach death. The Imam says to Musmi' is when you have the ma'rifah and the ma'soom, to a point that what makes you grieve is what happens to them. And when you are happy is what makes them happy. You know? What happens is, my forefathers, they will attend your deathbed, and they will ask the angel of death to go easy on you, and he will be more merciful upon you than a mother upon her child. These are not the ma'rifah of Ahlul Bayt. The knowing the status of the ma'soom, of the infallibles. It's not only beneficial in the hereafter, it's even in the dunya. Knowing the purpose of the creation, of your existence in this world, in this dunya, gives you tranquility. Why did Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim lived happy even if they were getting killed? Al-Imam al-Hussein, in the middle of the battle, he still performed his prayers, and he had some of the companions were taking the arrows from getting to him. In the middle of the battle, he still prayed on time. Why? Because they discovered the purpose of the creation, and they fulfilled that. When I try to find my purpose as a human being, I want to reach, to be a wealthy person. I want to have a house with this kind of descriptions. I want to buy the newest and the best car. This is my purpose. And I start working hard. And then I achieve it. And I still find in myself that this is not, I wanted more. I want something that is different than that. Why? Because Allah didn't create you for this. Allah says in the Quran that I only created jinn and mankind to worship me. And in the tafsir, to know me. Through Ahlul Bayt, reaching the purpose of your creation, then it doesn't matter. Ali al-Akbar in Karbala, when he told his father, "Oh father, aren't we on the right path?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Then why should we care whether we fall upon death or death falls upon us?" What kind of spirit that this person had, to a point that he didn't care, even if I lose the dunya, as long as I achieve the purpose of my creation. I reach a state of tranquility. Why do Amir al-Mu'mineen say, "Al-qana'atu kanzun la yafna"? Being content and satisfied with what you have is a treasure that doesn't end. Contentment and satisfaction comes through knowing the purpose of your creation. You know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is satisfied with you, then who cares if the people get angry with me and they're upset with me? So Ahlul Bayt reached that status. And Sayyeda Rouqaya salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi teaches us that knowing the ma'soom, the ma'rifah and the ma'soom, is the key to happiness. That's why at that age, losing her father, it didn't affect her. But what affected her when she saw Imam al-Hussein in her dream was upset. Nowadays, if we want to apply this upon ourselves, we think about the Imam of our time. Isn't our purpose to know the Ma'soom, the infallible? It means our purpose to know the infallible who is alive and between us during this time. Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. We have to always think what is satisfying him and what is upsetting him. We have to make sure that he's satisfied with us. The narration says that the Imam looks upon our deeds every week, or twice a week, or every Thursday night. He looks upon your a'mal and he knows you by your name. He says, this person on Monday he done that, on Tuesday he done that, on Wednesday he done that. You know, if I am certain that the Imam is looking upon my deeds and what I done throughout the week, then I don't know which of these deeds made the Imam upset and broke his heart, and which of these deeds made him smile and be happy. Because we know the Imam is still in absence or in disappearance. Why? Because the number 313 of the loyal soldiers, of the sincere ones, of the mu'mineen that reached high levels of taqwa, they're not there yet. If 313 of the leaders are complete, that's when the Imam comes out, as the narrations indicate. How many Shia around the world? And he's still waiting for us. So of course, if he sees my shortfallings, he's going to be upset. So what satisfies the Ma'soom should satisfy me. What upsets the Ma'soom, the infallible, the Imam, should upset me. Sayyeda Rouqaya didn't bear to see Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in that state. She saw him coming into the Khariba, because when they arrived to Ash-Sham, when they took them on the camels from Karbala to Al-Kufa, and from Al-Kufa to Ash-Sham to Syria, they put him in a broken house, in ruins, that doesn't have a ceiling. Doesn't have a ceiling. And this house doesn't protect them from the heat in the day, nor from the cold in the night. And the women and children, only Imam Zainul Abidin, who was sick, was with them. Sayyida Rouqaya was 3 or 4 years old. She saw Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in her dream. Before that, Zainab alayhi salam was going around telling them, go to sleep tonight, because tomorrow we have a long day. They're going to take us to the majlis of Yazid. We're going to be standing the whole day. And then Zainab alayhi salam, as she was seeing the kids and the women falling asleep, she saw Rouqaya sitting. She asked her, I told you to sleep. What's happening? She said, how am I going to sleep? She said to her, the same way Ahlul Bayt, the Imams and the Prophet taught us. The tradition says that you sleep on your right side. She said, how am I going to sleep on my right side? And Khiwalla kicked me on my ribs. She said, sleep on your left side. This is the sleep of the prophets. She said, how am I going to sleep on my left side? And Shimr was poking me with his sword. She said, sleep on your back. She said, how am I going to sleep on my back? And the whip has its marks upon my back from the enemies. Then she said to her, come to me and sleep upon my chest. Rouqaya slept. She saw her father, Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, coming into the Khariba, going out, upset. He knew that Rouqaya was following him on this night. She saw him in that state. She woke up. She said to her, Amma Zainab, Auntie Zainab, where is my father Hussein? Just a few seconds back he was here. I want my father Abu Abdullah. And she started to cry. And Zainab alayhi salam telling her that your father is in a travel. He traveled to the hereafter. And then Rouqaya kept crying until Yazid alayhi la'inullah heard the voice of Rouqaya crying. He stood up and he said, who's crying? What is that sound? They said to him, there is a daughter of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. She woke up in the middle of the night and she wants her father, Yazid alayhi la'inullah, with a harsh heart. He told them, take the head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein to her. They brought the head of Abu Abdullah in a golden plate, covered in a piece of cloth, to Rouqaya. They brought him to her. When she saw that plate, she said, I didn't ask for food, I want my father Hussein. Then Zainab alayhi salam told her, this is what you wanted, Ya Rouqaya. Rouqaya, she removed the cloth. She saw the head of her father in that state. His beard died by his blood, and this oil and the blood is mixed upon his forehead. She hugged the head of her father Hussein, and she started to say, Wa bata wa Husayna أبا من الذي حز وريدك أبا من الذي أيتمني على صغر سني. Oh Father, who severed your neck? Oh Father, who made me an orphan at this age? أبا حسين. صارت بلسان الحال وهذه الأبيات. راسك يا ابويا بلا جسد وانا سبيه بهالبلد، تدري بمتني اللي انجلد ولو وعمتوني حرملة. She started to complain to her father. Oh Father Hussein, look at the marks upon my shoulder. Oh Father Hussein, look how they dragged my earrings from my ears. Oh Father Hussein, look at the mark on my face when they slapped me. منه القطاع بويا النحر، منه ليتمني بالزغور، وخلاني امشي بالاسور ويد بحبيل متغلله. She kept crying Hussein, Hussein, until she fell asleep upon his head. Al-Imam Zainul Abidin told his auntie Zainab, remove the child from the head of Abu Abdullah. Zainab said to him, leave her, let her with her father, let her be. Then Al-Imam Zainul Abidin told Zainab, oh auntie, get up and renew the aza, renew the ma'tam. She said to him, why do you want me to renew the grief? He said to her, Wallah, this daughter, my sister died upon the head of her father. When they moved her, they found out that she was dead. Allahu Akbar. Zainab صرخت وحسينا وويلا. They brought a woman to wash the body of Rouqaya. When she put her upon her mortuary, Zainab alayhi salam was waiting outside. That lady came running out, fleeing away from the mortuary. Zainab asked her, what's happened? What happened to you? What's wrong with you? She said to her, I do not accept, I refuse to wash the body of this girl. Zainab asked her, what's wrong? Why don't you want to wash her body? She said to her, maybe she has some sort of a disease, some kind of a disease. I saw black marks and blue marks upon her body, and I'm afraid that this disease might be contagious. Zainab cried and told her, Amat Allah, Wallah ma biha marad. By the name of Allah, she's not ill, she's not sick, but these marks are the marks of the strikes of the soldiers of Yazid. Wallah انصحت يا أبويا يضربوني والله انصحت يا أبويا يضربوني ومن الضرب ورمى نمتوني أفاطم لا وخلت الحسين مجدلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط فرات إذا للطمت الخد فاطم عنده وأجريت دمع العين في الوجنات يا الله. إلهنا بحرقة قلب رقية على والدها الحسين hasten the repentance of صاحب العصر والزمان. Grant us the tawfiq and the ability to be of his soldiers, to be of those who will be martyred under his standard. ولتعجيل الفرج والاستجابة الدعاء وقبول الأعمال وقضاء الحوائج وشفاء المرضى. نقرأ دعاء الفرج. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. ولتعجيل الفرج واستجابة الدعاء وقبول الأعمال وقضاء الحوائج وشفاء المرضى ولأرواح أموات المؤمنين والمؤمنات أموات الحاضرين والحاضرات. نهد الجميع ثواب ما قرأنا والثواب المباركة الفاتحة مع